the last year or so, Bitcoin has become kind of front topic again. You had, over the course of the years, Bitcoin go through some pretty significant price rallies. Early on, it went through some significant rallies, then it crashed. 2017 had a great rally. It crashed again. And over the course of the last 12 months, we're starting to see it rally again. So what is Bitcoin as people think of it as an investment? Really, all it is it's a digital token, right? It's at the end of the day, a math algorithm that gets solved by computers that is a very unique formula and is very easy to not easy to identify. Once it's created, it's easy to identify. And people are treating those coins or those algorithms as a store of value or as a digital token. You can divide a Bitcoin up to 8 decimal places. So it can be, you can divide it into very, very, very small increments. So it can be broken apart, and the hope is someday Bitcoin becomes a currency. And there is currency uses for it today. Personally, I don't think of it as a currency because I have trouble with any currency that can fluctuate in value by 20% over a very short period of time as being a true currency. I think of a currency as something that has a very steady value, that I know when I pay for something, I'm not going to watch the value of what I gave away go up 20 or 25% the next day. But people are thinking about it much more today as a store of value. It is garnering much more attention in that aspect. People are talking about it being the equivalent of digital gold or being it just like gold. And if you think about it, if you think about what gold is, it's really not that much different than Bitcoin per se, except the difference is you can put gold in your hand and you can see it, whereas Bitcoin is being held on a ledger. But both of them are limited in supply. There's only so much gold in the world. Bitcoin, there can only be 21 million Bitcoin mined. So we know that there's a maximum capacity in Bitcoin. And the value of gold is not really based on gold's use, because gold has very little use out there in society. Yes, we use it for jewelry. Yes, it's used a little bit in computer components. You used to put it in fillings and teeth. But at the end of the day, gold isn't really, there's no really significant commodity use for gold. So gold has a value because people believe it has a store of value, and therefore it gets priced accordingly. And that's now what's starting to happen with Bitcoin. People believe Bitcoin can have a store of value away from central government's currency, whether it be the US governments, the Venezuelan governments, the Chinese, European Union, whatever currency you want to deal in, it's a store of value away from any of those currencies. It's a decentralized currency. It's not owned or controlled by any one government, so people are giving it some sort of value. As an investor, it is an asset class that we have to start paying a little bit more attention to. When it first came out, it was it still is today a very risky asset. It's a very volatile asset class. It's still not a commonly accepted asset class. It's still very, investors are using it in a very limited way, but we are now starting to see institutional investors take an interest in it. Institutional investors are starting to take allocations towards it. So you can't ignore trends like that when they start to happen. In addition to Bitcoin is talked about the most because it is the largest by market value. It's been around the longest, and it has, probably the most notoriety. So you also have Ethereum out there now that is a blockchain technology that was originally introduced primarily to be utilized with smart contracts, which is a concept I think will be adapted over time. I think the smart contract concept really has value out there in the world. Whether it ends up on that platform or it ends up on another platform, we'll find out. Right now, Ethereum is leading the charge with that, and Ethereum has its own coin that is really grown in value. And there's a number of other coins out there today that are starting to gain traction. Each one of them is still in the very early stages, is still very speculative, but some are starting to gain much more acceptance as potential, real potential business uses. So Bitcoin is something that I think every investor should be watching. I would say Bitcoin is not really an asset class for most investors today because it is still a highly speculative investment. When the price of something can go from 20,000 to 60,000 to 35,000 back to 50,000 in the course of less than 12 months, that's really not an asset or not a price movement that most people want to tolerate with their investments. But as time goes on, as acceptance grows, it will be something that investors will have to pay more attention to.